Hello, Quid Nation, and welcome back to Quidward's Bedtime Stories. And today, we're going to be reading Fortnite lore. But the thing is, there is a lot to read here, so I am going to split this vidword up into 3 parts. The first one will be detailing Season 1, next one Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and then Chapter 3. So those are 3 separate vidwords. But anyways, let's just get right into it. Fortnite Battle Royale has lore, which was first introduced in Season 3. Since then, the story has continued throughout the series. The 0 point, the core and center of all realities. Reality 0, the reality of Fortnite Battle Royale. The loop, matches of Battle Royale. Looper, the player. Live events, in-game story cutscenes. Rift, a type of portal. The Cube, evil entities from the last reality. Snapshots, versions of something or someone which have left the loop, and the 0 point makes a copy of it to stay in the loop. Factions, imagined order, an ancient organization nicknamed 10, in control of the loop and 0 point. The 7, a faction trying to stop the 10, liberate the 0 point and destroy the loop, or destory the loop. The last reality, evil faction that ends realities who appeared from space. Before Chapter 1. In the beginning, there was nothing. Then in a burst of pure creation, the 0 point sprang into being. Countless realities originated from the 0 point, each its own universe, with its own multiverse. Theorists refer to this historic event to now what is known as the Big Bang. The location of the 0 point was Reality 0, the origin reality containing the 0 point. Over presumably billions of years within Reality 0, the 0 point brought matter from different dimensions, which then collided and resolved around the 0 point, forming the island and the surrounding body of water. A breathable human atmosphere was also formed around the island. 1,000 plus years ago, the imagined order discovers the 0 point and solves it, constructing the bridge and containing the 0 point within it. They send Agent Jones into the 0 point to see what happens, and he survives, ending up on the island. They create the loop, a 22-minute time loop that is used to trap anyone who arrives on the island. The loop uses the storm to push combatants together over the 22-minute time period, eventually closing all the way in and oofing anyone trapped in it. If someone is to be the last standing in the loop, at the exact closing point of the storm, they will escape the loop and be sent into the island, free from the loop. They use the 0 point to travel to and from different realities and use it to alter various realities, changing their courses of development drastically, often disastrously, in their pursuit of knowledge and power. Eventually, the imagined order began experimenting with the loop, kidnapping people from different realities and trapping them on the island, where they fought again and again in a battle royale. The 7 fear them and the potential catastrophic damage they could cause to the Omniverse as a whole. The 7 study the 0 point, the Omniverse, for a very long time. The Foundation was trapped in the loop, but managed to escape from it. And here you got a picture of The Rock, I believe. Is that The Rock? That's gotta be right. Alright. The last reality starts to hunt down the 0 point. They send corruption cubes through Rift to destroy many realities possible, so they can become the last reality in the Omniverse. One of their victims is the reality of Fortnite Save the World. Pre-season. The Looper is trapped inside the loop by the imagined order. Season 3. A comet appears in the sky above the island. It gradually gets closer over time. Small meteorites begin to land on the island as a precursor to the large meteor. Season 4. Brace for impact. The mysterious comet has hit the island and crashes into the factory, vaporizing the facility. The resulting crater destroys most of Dusty Depot, and the entire area is renamed to Dusty Divot. Smaller comet fragments damage tilted towers, risky reels, and destroy the prison. The government arrives and sets up a research facility in the divot, examining a large and mysterious comet rock in the center, constructing a large building around it to shield it from prying eyes. Government cars and trucks also arrive at each of the smaller craters dotted around the island, and study the mysterious hop rocks found there. Production of a movie begins in which the evil supervillain Omega found himself freed from the prison due to his destruction from a comet fragment. The heroes led by Carbide began formulating a plan at their hero mansion near Lonely Lodge. In his villain lair, Omega began to assemble an army of augmented soldiers for a final battle with the superheroes, taking place in Tilted Towers. A movie set was built at Moisty Mire for filming, and the hero mansion and villain lair were also constructed for filming. However, the villain lair itself actually contained what was thought to be a rocket prop for Omega's sinister intentions, but which played a major role in the lore in the later weeks of the season. Production of the movie is complete. The government collect all of the hop rocks and transport them to the villain lair. Not long after, they drills through the comet rock at Dusty Divot and reveals the visitor's pod. It seems as if the meteor was actually a method of transportation that the visitor used to get to the island. The seemingly hostile individual visitor broke out of his pod and trashed the research facility, escaping the villain lair, which already contained all the hop rocks assembled by the government. The visitor proceeded to modify fake prop rocket in the lair to allow it to channel the 0-point field, and began filling it with hop rocks. The rocket, piloted by the visitor inside, takes off from the villain lair, leaving behind a thick trail of smoke as it ascends into the sky. It momentarily stopped in the air to break off its rocket booster, before accelerating quickly. Once reaching a high altitude, the rocket shut off its engines and stalled in the air, before plummeting back down towards the island. The visitor could be heard saying 0-point oscillator on, setting coordinates, engaging quantum field accelerator. The rocket activated a laser that pointed directly at Tilted Towers and boosted towards the location. However, before it could hit, the visitor activated a device on his rocket and temporarily opened a sideways rift between two distinct realities, effectively acting as a portal to the in-between, the realm of 0 Point, which could be subsequently manipulated with the 0-point oscillator to travel through time, space, or both. It can strongly be assumed that the visitor's quantum field accelerator acted as the device necessary to manipulate the 0 Point, to create a tear through both space and time to actually enter the in-between. The rocket went through the rift and boosted out of another one, over Moisty Mires, flying around the island to enter another rift near Snobby Shores. Finally, the rocket boosted out of another rift at Loot Lake and accelerated into the sky, blasting through space-time and creating a gigantic rift in the sky, known as the Sideways Rift. This rift did not close and instead slowly grew over the days until Season 5, indicating that the visitor significantly fractured reality to a point that it began destabilizing further. As the Sideways Rift continued to grow, smaller rifts began opening around the island, rifting different objects from the island. Most famously, the Der Burger rifted and appeared in the real world, in a remote part of the California desert. It was guarded by a group of unknown agents. Sand started to leak from the Sideways Rift. Rifts began bringing objects from different realities to the island, namely a ship wagon, dinosaur bones, and an ancient wagon. Season 5, Worlds Collide. The Sideways Rift collides different realities together, and a large number of map changes occur, including the introduction of a giant desert which replaces Moisty Mire. Drift was painting graffiti on the Der Burger in the real world. When he and the Burger were suddenly rifted back onto the island, he starts his adventure with Bright Bomber, Cuddle Team Leader, Rex, and others. Drift's road trip begins and he goes on various different adventures, and each adventure features him progressing through his edit styles. The Sideways Rift above the island starts to shrink and change from blue to purple color, meaning that the fabric of reality is healing, but the last reality is taking control of it. Enforcers arrives to restore the island's missing items. One of the loading screens depicts the Enforcers returning the motel sign to the island. The sideways rift begins to shoot lightning bolts at a hill in the desert, eventually culminating in the formation of the cube. The sideways rift closes in the process. This was a method that the last reality used to transport one of its cubes to the island, with the goal to locate the 0 point and destroy Reality Zero. A rift at Tomato Town brings Tomato Temple onto the island. It replaces Tomato Town as a result. The cube rolls around the island, imprinting 7 mysterious glyphs into the ground at different locations, with an anti-gravity dome surrounding each one of them. The cube destroys the brand new building and tilted towers before dissolving in Loot Lake. Season 6, Darkness Rises. The cube's matter begins to gather towards the Loot Lake Island, and forms the cube underneath the central island. The cube rips out the island and lifts it into the air, keeping it suspended with a tornado-like vortex. A mysterious purple whirlpool lies where the island once rested, likely leading to the vault. Anti-gravity domes surrounding each glyph has been disabled, but the area surrounding them has been corrupted and twisted by the evil power of the cube. The glyphs could have been a process that the cube used to collect energy for later reabsorption. The floating island begins to move to the Pleasant Park corrupted areas to absorb energy, tearing the glyph out of the ground and lifting it into the air. Once the cube was finished, the glyph was dropped back to the ground, and the island moved on, one by one. The floating island visited each corrupted zone around the planet and around the island, with the last one being near Dusty Divot. During this stage, all the glyphs from each corrupted zone levitated into the air and began moving towards the floating island. Energy from all glyphs at once were absorbed by the cube. Finally, energy from each glyph was exhausted, and they dropped to the ground lifeless. Throughout its journey, the cube began growing through the floating island, and eventually growing completely through the house. Okay, it's a little hard to read around this point. You got like some of that repeating dialogue, but I'm gonna keep going. The island returns to Leaky Lake. As the cube pulses with energy, it shoots up a purple energy beam into the sky, forming a vortex that would likely be a portal to the last reality dimension, which would allow them to invade. The floating island violently explodes, causing it to split into 3 islands. The cube material that grew through the house was blasted out and scattered across the island. These cube shards created cube monsters, which killed any looper on site. A dense fog also covered the entire island following the explosion, and started Fortnitemares 2018. The cube monsters created was likely a method that the cube used to distract the population from the vortex being formed by the cube. The cube begins to lose energy, and the outer shell cracks and melts off into the vortex, presumably into the 0 point. The butterfly effect. Calamity rallies an army, and they all attack the cube together at Loot Lake. The cube turns white and begins to lose energy, with the outer shell cracking and melting off. Eventually, the cube explodes, partially damaging the 0 point and sending all loopers to the in-between, which is the first time the dimension is presented to the players. While the loopers are away, all the matter at Loot Lake is reorganized, transforming Loot Lake into a peaceful paradise with large pieces of the cube resting at the center. All of the monster generators and fog were wiped off the island, along with the monsters themselves, ending Fortnitemares. AIM lands near the island at Flush Factory as an iceberg nears the island. The iceberg arrives on the Season 7, you better watch out. The iceberg arrives on the island, along with the Ice King and his kingdom. Frosty Flights, Happy Hamlet, and Polar Peak are introduced, while Flush Factory and Greasy Grove are destroyed. The Arctic Force invades the island from their main headquarters at Frosty Flights, setting up numerous expedition outposts throughout the island. They are led by Sergeant Winter. Part of Polar Peak soon begins to melt, revealing the Ice King's gigantic castle, which also contains mysterious eggs held in the cells within the dungeon. Sergeant Winter begins his distribution of Christmas presents at Frosty Flights. Polar Peak continues to melt, revealing a prisoner frozen in ice and chained in the Polar Peak Castle's dungeon. The king finally ends his slumber and wakes up, getting up from his throne. Ice Storm. The Ice King finds a shard of the cube and manifests its power. He forms a snowstorm that sweeps over the island, unleashing the Ice Legion, with ice versions of cube monsters. The prisoner frees himself from the Ice King's prison by melting the ice and escapes. He steals the eggs from the dungeon cells and travels to the northeast side of the island. The prisoner finally regains his power as the Fire King and casts a spell. Wailing Woods begins to heat up and the grass leaves begin to die in Wailing Woods. Earthquakes begin occurring throughout the island, creating fissures in the ground, the last of which destroy the brand new Tilted Towers building, which is constructed following the destruction of the previous building at the hands of the Cube. Season 8. X marks the spot. A dense jungle appears on the northeast side of the island, along with a temple called Sunny Steps and a volcano which serves as the stronghold for the prison. Blackheart and his crew land on the island in search for treasure and establish a pirate outpost at Lazy Lagoon, slowly moving throughout the island to create pirate ships. The brood are born from the eggs stolen by the prisoner. Your fault. And are hatched by his fiery powers. They head out of the... your fault. They head out of the volcano and act as servants of the prison. A mysterious black helicopter begins to move around the island. Peely enters Bananahood and conducts the ripening ritual. The government returns to the island. 2 excavation sites occur, one near Fatal Fields and another near Dusty Divot. None of them reveal anything useful. Master Key is attacked by 3 hybrids. He manages to escape. The prisoner's right hand, Ruin, arrives. The government's 3rd excavation site near Loot Lake reveals a strange sheet of metal. The black helicopter landed near the center of the Loot Lake. Massive excavation site at Loot Lake reveals the Vault, a gate that leads to the imagined Order's realm of 0 Point. Research buildings are created by the government surrounding the Vault. At this point in time, the keys to activate the Vault are spawning in, sliding into slots where they should be. Each one of them requires a different and unique task to be completed to allow it to slot in. For example, the 3rd key required players to dance to fill up a meter. Monitors at Loot Lake show the 5 items featured during the unvaulting. The unvaulting event. The vault is opened and the loopers select the drum gun to be unvaulted. While there, players notice the desk of the Singularity, the guardian of the vault, along with her helmet, resting in front of the 0 Point, stable and contained within the mysterious material that makes up the floor of this mysterious invention. When loopers leave the vault, the volcano erupts and shoots out fireballs that destroy Retail Row's shopping district, cracks Polar Peak, and destroys all of Tilted Towers except the No Sweat insurance building. Season 9. The Future is Yours. Singularity helps the inhabitants of the island rebuild Tilted Towers and Retail Row into the high-tech Neo-Tilted and Mega Mall, powered by the 0 Point, with a power cable stretching from the vault to Neo-Tilted. The statue of Singularity was also built at Neo-Tilted to honor her. The prisoner mysteriously vanishes, and the top of his volcano is carved out, with pressure plant is built inside. Utilizing the magma to create clean energy, the government seems to have also assisted in rebuilding the island, as they are in charge of generating power for the island through the geothermal energy of the volcano and wind turbines around the island. Jonesy I, alongside Peely, hid in an unknown bunker for safety during the volcano event, but eventually ran out of food. Later, the bunker was opened by Sentinel after Jonesy had consumed most of Peely. Jonesy, now Bunker Jonesy, had a long beard and was drinking a smoothie made. No! Okay, stay on focus. And was drinking a smoothie made from Peely to survive. As the door was sealed shut after the duo entered. One of the fireballs during the unvaulting event struck Polar Peak, causing a giant crack to appear on the surface of the ice. From the start of Season 9, the ice began cracking and melting even further. Eventually, the ice melts enough to reveal the malicious eye of the Devourer. The Devourer then manages to break out of Polar Peak, taking an entire section of Polar Peak with it. It destroys the house at Snobby Shores and escapes into the ocean, beginning to swim around the island. It occasionally returns to the island and destroys a house at Pleasant Park, and a research building at Loot Lake, leaving giant footprints in its wake. Bunker Jonesy tries to warn everyone about the imminent danger. Pressure plant is taken apart in order to help Singularity construct a mecha team leader to defeat the Devourer and save the island, as the monster was an imminent threat to the island. Final showdown. The mecha and the Devourer battle against each other. The Devourer attempts to obtain the 0 Point by attempting to break into the vault, but is interrupted by the mecha. Following a brutal attack, the mecha is severely damaged, so it breaks into the vault and rips out the 0 point, obtaining some of its power in a desperate last resort to save the reality. With its newfound energy, the mecha punches the Devourer and sends it tumbling away. The Singularity statue is revealed to be a giant blade, and the mecha uses the 0 point energy to charge it and make it stronger. In the final showdown, the mecha stabs the Devourer through the head, defeating the beast once and for all. Its corpse decomposes quickly due to the 0 point energy. The 0 point was left exposed after the event, and it began destabilizing rapidly. Its outer shell was cracked by the mecha to obtain power, and 0 point energy began to leak out and corrupt the surroundings. Season X, Out of Time. The 0 point reaches a critical destabilization point and explodes. As seen in the trailer, Jonesy the First witnessed the explosion, and him and all the matter of the island from current and past seasons were thrown into a giant swirling purple abyss. However, time is suddenly frozen for some reason, and the event is paused, with everything returning back to the end. However, Dusty Depot returned, and is at the state where the meteor almost slams into the location. The arrangement of the colors are wrong. Several other objects from the past appear as the 0 point seems to be warping time. And the 0 point itself is surrounded by a time bubble, containing the frozen explosion inside, with debris floating in the air. The imagined order construct the scientist, one of the 7 in the frozen meteor, and manipulate him into fixing the 0 point. A rift beacon is created by the scientist and transported and activated at Neo Tilted, which transforms the location to Tilted Town, creating the first rift zone. The sideways rift formed above the location. Another rift beacon is activated at Mega Mall. The rift zone brings back Retail Row during Fortnitemares 2018. As a result, the rift zone also brought back the Cube Monsters. The third rift beacon is activated at the soccer stadium, but it malfunctions and explodes, destroying the beacon. To compensate for the soccer stadium explosion, a rift beacon at Truck and Oasis rifts Pandora within the area of the beacon. A rift beacon is placed at Fatal Fields, however, instead of changing the area, the floating island from Season 6, with the motel combined on the house, is rifted into the islands. The island begins to move around the island, seemingly acting as a clock for the final countdown to the end. 2 rift beacons are placed, one at Paradise Palms, one at the frozen lake, which contains Greasy Grove, Moisty Mire, and Paradise Palms, merged together suddenly, creating Moisty Palms. The prison is also brought back in the area in its Season 4 state. The rift beacon at Greasy Grove Lake returns the entire location back to its previous glory. The rift beacon is unexpectedly placed at Tilted Town, only for it to turn into Gotham City. Starry Suburbs is restored to its former glory via a rift beacon. The scientist begins constructing its rocket during this time. A visitor created several tapes. They were able to be collected and cryptically described his plans and attempts to remember his plan during the looping process. He also places virus on the BRUTE, clearing the sky for the rocket launch. The end. The scientist sets the Seven's plan into motion, and the scientist takes off into the sky before rifting away. The 7 sideways rifts created by the rift beacons acted as a way for the 7 and each other and in each of their rockets to get to the island, in an effort to stabilize the bridge. The 7 unfreeze the meteor and slam it into the 0 point to contain it from destroying Reality Zero. This causes the 0 point to contain the loop's matter into a black hole. As matter goes into the black hole, the loop structure changes. This completes the mission of the 7. Throughout the next 2 days of the Nothing, a new island is constructed out of the matter from the old one. Well, this has been Fortnite Lore Chapter 1. Easy! Until next time, don't forget to keep dabbing on them haters!